Hi, everyone. I'm Dan Jones. Welcome to Interchange. Thank you so very much for joining us. We have lots of local stuff to talk about this week. The President of the United States visits Master Lock here in Milwaukee. Kohl's department store says no go to locating its headquarters in downtown Milwaukee. Just 2 years after bragging they were going to double the workforce in Milwaukee, Frontier Airlines seems to be shrinking out of existence here. What's the story there? And how much money will it take to really fix Milwaukee's crumbling City Hall? All right, let me introduce everybody once again. We have newspaper columnist Joel McNally, Kevin Fischer, longtime broadcaster, political analyst, and oftentimes a fill-in host over on WISN Talk Radio, and Denise Callaway, community affairs and public relations professional. Rick Horowitz will be along with commentary at the end of the show. All right, the first thing we're going to talk about is Milwaukee's Central City Master Lock plant. President Obama keeps bragging about this company because it brought about 100 jobs back from China. And he came to town again to spotlight it the other day. But the reality is that plant still employs only 1/3 the number of people it did 15 years ago. It's a great company, a Milwaukee jewel, but is it really a shining example, Kevin, of American manufacturing success?
It's not a shining example. It's not even the best example that the White House could have picked for the president to go on tour to. Don't get me wrong. It's wonderful that company is still striving and is still strong, and 100 jobs, we'll take them. We'll take them. It would have been better if it had been 500 or 1,000 or more. But I think we have to be really honest here, and if you want to label this a success story, which is what the White House administration did this week, you have to put this in the proper perspective, that it isn't anything that Master Lock did in luring those 100 jobs here. It's nothing that the president did. The reality is, the economic reality is that labor costs and logistical costs in Asia have gone up, and have gone up dramatically. And that was the number one reason I believe that Master Lock was able to get these jobs here. The president did what presidents do in a re-election year. They go out, they do these photo ops, they go to these companies, they put on the hats, and they pose for the cameras and for holy pictures. But your question was, is this a shining example of a rebirth in the economy and in manufacturing? No, but I think it's maybe the best story, unfortunately, that the White House could find.
Denise, was he just being a cheerleader, and is that part of his job anyway?
He wasn't. I was fortunate enough to actually be at Master Lock when the president was there. And the best part about that was being there and listening to what the CEO of Master Lock had to say about why those jobs came back. Yes, the rising cost in the Far East did make a difference in that, but it was also labor and management working together, still maintaining collective bargaining for employees, and being able to do something that is a success story. And the other thing is, I was so struck by the pride that people at Master Lock had, who were there with me in the audience, about what they've been able to accomplish, that they feel good about being on the cutting edge of bringing manufacturing back to this community. We're not going to see the numbers of people employed in manufacturing that we did when Master Lock was at its height, because the world has changed. And that's why I think it's even more critical to take a look at what Master Lock has done as a success. Now, Kevin can talk about the fact that this is the best example that the president can come up with, or that the White House can, and that's not correct. I mean, let's just take a look at what we've seen over the past week or so in terms of economic news with this president. And I stress with this president because for the past 2 years, it hasn't happened with this Congress, because this Congress has not joined him in moving the economy forward and taking the steps that are necessary. The Dow is flirting with 13,000. That is such a critical psychological number for us when it comes to showing how our economy has improved. GM had its best year in its history ever. And this is a company that, if it wouldn't have been for the president stepping in to say we need to do something to save the auto industry, wouldn't exist. And literally the millions of jobs associated with it would be gone. Unemployment is at its lowest rate
How many
in
millions of people are still
years.
unemployed?
I'll tell you what,
25
a lot
million?
fewer than would have been if Republicans would have had their way and the auto industry would have
25
gone
million are
down.
still without
Then the
jobs.
auto industry would have gone down.
president's
You
doing a
can
bang-up job.
triple that number, and he's still, and then Republicans would have been saying, well, why didn't somebody do anything? But the critical thing about this is this president is moving us forward. We've had in Wisconsin 6 straight months of job loss. Capco, which was supposed to be this great private investment organization that was going to work, took 10 years to bring 202 jobs to the state at a cost of about $250,000. And that's something that Scott Walker supported when he was in the legislature.
Was this a campaign stop for Obama, or is everything the president does a campaign stop anyway?
I think going into this year, everything the president does, everything the Republicans do are campaign moments. No question about that. It kills me that Republicans like Kevin and actually the possible nominee for the Republican presidential party, Mitt Romney, will trash success in America. It's, when you see jobs coming back from China, and yeah, it's only 100 jobs, but they're sure moving in the right direction, and they're moving into a part of Milwaukee that needs employment badly, a workforce that, that in fact the governor of this state is trashing. When he shut down the high-speed rail, we just moved a factory into this area to build trains for high-speed rail all over this country, and the governor of their own state trashed the plant and essentially is driving them away. You had Mitt Romney, whose father was a president of a car company, saying, like Kevin did on this show once, just let the auto industry go bankrupt. And
Is the topic Masterlock, or am I mistaken?
This is what you guys do to every success you see in America. It's un-American.
You trash success because you trash the wealthy. You trash people who work hard and make money. You do it every week.
No,
we don't trash success.
Saying that they ought to,
success.
saying that wealthy people ought to pay their fair share in taxes is not trashing them.
And by the way, since the Obama Love Fest,
a lot of money.
Since the Obama Love Fest erupted here on television, I guess my colleagues didn't read the paper today where the Congressional Budget Office predicted that unemployment, Denise, Joel, will be over 8% until at least 2014. That doesn't say good things. No, I'm not. But I'm saying
you are. Yes, you are.
Don't come on television and give us this sugarcoating that everything is hunky dory and that our president is doing a great job.
It's better to trash success.
It's not sugarcoating it. Everything is not hunky dory. But what you refuse to admit is that the things that this president is doing, including saving the auto industry, are bringing this economy back.
He didn't
and save
the
millions of jobs.
auto industry. The auto industry would have rebounded without all the waste and stimulus because the company GM would have been just sold to somebody else who would have fixed it
and taken the jobs overseas.
Let's talk about the decision.
Let's
talk about the decision by Kohl's to say no thanks to the very generous offer by the city of Milwaukee to help Kohl's build a new headquarters on the very long vacant Park East land downtown. Most of the rumor machine says Kohl's will likely build their new headquarters in Menominee Falls, where they are located right now. Why wouldn't a downtown big city plot of land be appealing to a giant corporation like Kohl's? Do you think they don't want to be in the city, or they're happy with the status quo where they're at?
I'm sorry to say, I think it's that they just don't want to be in the city, or that some of their employees just don't want to be in the city, because they said themselves, the company said itself, Milwaukee and Milwaukee County working together made a very good offer to them, and they said downtown Milwaukee is going to be a good place to do business, and these kinds of overtures from the city and the county are exactly the right thing to happen. But in their private boardrooms, they decided not to move downtown. And since they aren't explaining the decision, I have to assume, what I always assume is that some executives make decisions not based on anything else other than the public perception that somehow downtown Milwaukee is a bad place to be. And that is wrong. We've talked on this show. I think everybody on this panel has talked on this show that is an incorrect perception. But these kinds of decisions just continue that incorrect perception. I think downtown is destined to become more of a headquarters for major corporations than it is now, because the city and the county are working together aggressively to make it happen. But I'm sorry that Kohl's made the opposite decision.
If you can't get a hometown favorite like Kohl's to build downtown, how are you going to get another company? But Manpower did.
Manpower did, and I don't know what more the county and the city could have done. There were some good faith negotiations going on. They were very, very cordial and very friendly. That started, at least at the city level, almost a year ago. Now Tom Barrett isn't saying what the numerical economic figures are, but they offered not just the Park East, not just the downtown, but as many as 10 different sites from Northridge all the way to the airport in the city of Milwaukee. And Kohl still said no. The county, Chris Abele and his team, offered $20 million in incentives, including free land, utility relocation costs, and as many as 1,000 bus passes that would have gone to Kohl's employees, who I think rightfully were concerned about, and a lot of them live near the headquarters. Now they're going to take a 10-minute commute, and it's going to turn into maybe an hour commute every day. I can understand the angst there and why they wouldn't be, doing cartwheels over a move to downtown Milwaukee. But the talks ended with the announcement this week, and all sides are still being very cordial, which leads me to, and Kohl's is saying they're exploring all their options, which leads me to believe that the door may be cracked open ever so slightly, that maybe Park East or downtown isn't the spot for them, but maybe some other spot in Milwaukee County or even in adjacent Waukesha County might be where they're looking if they don't stay in Menominee Falls. But Wisconsin's going to keep them. But my hat's off to the county and to Tom Barrett's Department of City Development for making, I think, tremendous offers. And for whatever reason, Kohl's isn't saying why, but for whatever reason, they're just not biting right now.
And Denise, history proves Kohl's does not make too many mistakes.
No, it does not. I think, part of this is there was a lot of success with Manpower. There was a lot of success with Roundy's even before that, and getting those corporate headquarters moved to downtown. You don't win them all. And this may be a case where the city and county's best effort was still not enough to lure Kohl's into downtown Milwaukee. But I think that Kevin's right. There may be other opportunities that exist, particularly on that far northwest side. Kohl's is one of the fastest growing companies in the country. And if you take a look at the facilities that they have built there in Menominee Falls, I think a real question for them was, do we have enough space to replicate this, and do we have enough space to grow? And I think that really is the key thing for them. A company that is, as you said, doesn't make many mistakes, is growing as quickly as it is, really needs to be able to have the opportunity to look towards the future. 10, 20 years from now, how much space are we going to need, and are we going to be able to get it with that downtown location?
I think this was an appeasement to the employees. I think there would have been a mini revolt or uprising on the part of Kohl's employees.
I don't think
and had they made that move.
Very many companies worry about what their employees
Well, this
think.
one does,
in fact,
I believe.
They make their decisions on
the bottom line, which
bottom
they
lines,
should,
and the employees just have to live with it. But I think they may be using that as kind of a cover excuse.
All right. It was just about 2 years ago when Frontier Airlines said it planned to double the size of its workforce here in Milwaukee. Now it keeps on shrinking, and it's about to cut more flights, lay off hundreds more employees. How could company executives be so very wrong about their own business just 2 years ago?
The airline business, come on, it's hurting. They don't know how to.
Hurting them, though.
They don't know how to manage themselves, and I don't know. I don't think we fell for that spin that everything's going to be great. Frontier's going to come in, and everything's going to be great, super. But that didn't last very long, did it? Now you want the positive spin? There's not much. I heard an analyst on radio this week say, well, you've got Southwest coming in. they'll pick up the slack, and they're fiscally sound, about as fiscally sound as you can be in this crazy industry, and they will be a fine fit for Milwaukee. But Frontier slashing flights, they're probably going to slash employees. Businesses, especially in that airport area, that want to lure other businesses in, create more jobs, see this as a negative. You really can't spin this one. I believe this hurts. This is bad, and there is a great movement now within the past couple of years in the area right around the airport to build that up and then have that spread. And this Frontier development doesn't help that at all.
But the airport's doing a booming business.
Well, it is up to a point. I mean, here's the thing. I don't understand the economics of the airline business at all.
They don't.
But you know, at the time when Frontier took over Midwest, remember, once Midwest was the shining star, and we thought it was going to take off nationally and become much more successful. At the time Frontier took over Midwest Express, it had just recently been taken over by Republic. So they were and Frontier had been growing well and was marketing itself well. And then Republic took it over, a very successful company. So its management was up in the air and changing, and management philosophies and everything else. And getting a grip on what the world is now for airline travel is obviously toxic for many of these companies. Once successful companies are going down right and left. I do think that Milwaukee has always had a great opportunity. There were some businessmen behind me on an airplane once who were from Chicago flying to Milwaukee. And they were talking about, can you believe what a great airport Milwaukee has? We live in Chicago, but we always fly out of Milwaukee. And I really think that the rail connection that unfortunately this governor trashed between Chicago and Milwaukee, that was a perfect opportunity to expand upon attracting traffic from Chicago and making it just routine that people would rather fly in and out of here than O'Hare, because that's just a nightmare sometimes.
Yep. And the bummer for consumers is that so many of the analysts this week said Frontier's big mistake was they didn't price their flights high enough.
Yeah, for somebody who would fly Frontier, particularly to go visit relatives in Georgia, I thought the pricing was good. I thought it actually could have been better. But I think that this all points to the fact that, there's still a lot of turmoil in the country's airline industry.
They blame it on fuel.
They can blame it on fuel costs, and I think there is some legitimate concern about that. I mean, fuel costs are very high. But I think it's also a sign that the airline industry and airlines in particular are still trying to kind of figure out where they fit. What is their niche? How do they market themselves? If you take a look at those airlines that tend to be the most successful, it's Southwest, Cut Rate, and other cut rate airlines, who still offer good service, competitive airfare. And it is entertaining, actually, when you fly Southwest. The pilots are very funny. And the part of the reality, too, is that airline travel is just not what is. I know, I love their pilots.
I want a clown to come out and tell jokes.
But they're, what we're finding is that flying, too, is not what it used to be. It's not attractive. It's not easy. It is a chore when you fly. So I think all of these things combined together have put the airline industry in a bit of turmoil. Who knows what Frontier is actually going to look like and what service it's actually going to provide.
Well, the big downfall here is the reduction in direct flights.
Oh, yes.
That hurts.
Yeah.
And somebody's going to have to come in, if possible, and pick up the slack. And then maybe we'll be okay, but I don't see that happening.
I'm not convinced it's going to be Southwest. Southwest has been able to remain profitable by being really smart about where it expands. The fact that we may want to see more direct flights, like I do to Atlanta, I'm worried about that, doesn't matter. They're taking a look at where they can find their most profitable flights, and that's what they're going to bring in. We may be without direct flights to a lot of these places for a while.
That will hurt local and state business.
Oh, absolutely.
All right, let's talk for just a few minutes about Milwaukee's City Hall. The historic building was falling apart, so they spent $76 million fixing it up recently. Then pieces of the restored City Hall began falling off. So now they're planning on spending more than $2 million to figure out what went wrong and who's to blame. And the estimates to fix it again are reportedly between $9 and $16 million. When do you get to the point where you say, all right, enough is enough? It's an old building, enough is enough. Or do you
I think
you just hope you get it all back in the lawsuits at the end?
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
and I think they very clearly recognize they will. There doesn't seem to be even any dispute coming from the people who did the restoration work that they're somehow at fault. I think they may be able to settle pretty quickly once they find out what the liability is.
Whenever that is.
But yeah, it amazes me that you know, one piece falls off, and what, it's been a year now that there's been all that scaffolding up around the building again. And we're terrified that another piece is going to fall off and then it's going to fall on somebody. Now, I don't want anybody to get hit by a piece either, but I don't know any pieces that have fallen off since the scaffolding started coming down. It drives you crazy, but it's a classic building. It's a great building. I've never seen a building in any other city that looks like it, and it's a great seat of government. And I was glad when they finally cleaned it off and it wasn't just all scuzzy. But now I sure would like to not have that scaffolding around it.
You know, if it was 20 years ago and a piece fell, that's probably would have been it. It would have been a small news story.
Right.
But I think since the O'Donnell Park thing where the young man was killed, I think that changed everything in Milwaukee. So they want to make sure not one more piece is going to fall off.
I think you're right. And I do think that this money, well, I think two things are frustrating. Number one, it's a bit disarming when you go into City Hall, you know, and you're trying to make your way in amongst all the scaffolding. You've got this little narrow entrance, and, you know, I worry about myself. I worry about my car that I parked out front.
The seized part when
Yeah.
people see, hey, that's Denise Callaway coming.
Yeah, right. Let's close the seats back up. But I think that they'll get the money back, but clearly there was a mistake that was made in the restoration of this. And in this era that we live in, where there's so much caution about something falling, somebody else being hurt, will we be sued? I think the city is being cautious. We might argue overly cautious. But you know, if someone does become injured and because the scaffolding was taken down, then that's a whole different problem. And it is. Though it's hard to see it with the scaffolding, such a beautiful building, and I think a symbol of our city and our city's longevity, that to get it right is important.
And once again, the lawyers will make millions.
Well, that's what's going on here, and they're loving this delay and this extrapolated process. I mean, who's conducting this investigation? Inspector Clouseau? Let's get to the end of this. But City Hall is spending money, you know, willy-nilly. There has to be an end, as the alderman stated this week at City Hall, and let me be the third to say it's a beautiful building. Come on, let's put an end to this. Let's find somebody who can get to the bottom of this, find out what happened, and then sue the pants off those people and get the money back.
But the lawsuit will take years and years and years.
Well, that's true, given our litigious society.
But, you know, I think if you've ever had something go wrong at your house when somebody repaired it, you know, you do want to take the time to figure out what's the next best step.
All right. You know the old line, some people see the glass as half full and others see it as half empty. But writing consultant and commentator Rick Horowitz looks at it differently. When it comes to news in a campaign year, he says what matters most is who's holding the glass. Rick.
Okay, say it with me. Gas prices are up. It's Obama's fault. The economy is up. Obama had nothing to do with it. Great. Okay, enough warm-up. You're ready for another visit to La La Logic Land. So let's get down to details, okay? Check out this chart. The rate of recent private sector job growth in a dozen battleground states all across the country. Above that midline, they've been gaining jobs. Below the line, they've been losing jobs, okay? So what do we see? Growth in almost every one of those states. So who deserves the credit? Have Obama's policies had anything to do with it? Of course not. It's because of the governors, Republican governors. Okay, and a few Democrat governors. But they're only continuing the policies of their Republican predecessors. Or they're right next door to Republican governors and the good job news just, you know, oozed across the border. Except this one state, Wisconsin, down below the line. In this one state, the economic news has nothing to do with the Republican governor. In this one state, it's all Obama's doing. At least until the economy starts to improve there. When the economy starts to improve, that'll be Scott Walker's doing. Got it? Bad news, Obama. Good news, Republicans. It's logical. It's like when Obama tries to take credit for keeping the Great Recession from turning into another Great Depression and for saving the car companies. It would have been much worse without him, he says, but he can't prove it. It's nothing but coulda, woulda thinking. Now, Mitt Romney and Rick Santorum, they know the car companies would have come back just as strong, even stronger, without Obama. Is that some more of that coulda, woulda thinking? Not in logic land? Or like Obama saying he got rid of bin Laden. Did he go into that compound, run up the stairs, fire the shots? Of course not. So where does he come off trying to take credit? The nerve of that guy. I mean, actually, wrong slide. Wrong slide. Like I was saying, where does he come up? Wrong slide. That's not that. That's totally different. Kill the cameras. Would you just kill them?
All right. Thank you, Rick, and thank you so very much for watching. Stay warm. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.